Thank you. I'll just wait for the slides to come up, but thanks, gang, for being here today. Hope to have an entertaining, informative presentation for you. And get situated here. So I'm Patrick. I'm one of the core contributors to CityCoins. I was previously the head of growth at Stacks. Stacks is basically smart contracts on Bitcoin. They're probably the biggest project on Bitcoin that is its own protocol. So, back in 2011, Mark Andreessen had this really great quote. He said, "Software is eating the world." And really what he meant by that was that, you have Airbnb eating the hotel industry, you have Uber eating taxi cabs, Netflix eating Hollywood, and the list goes on. Basically, when people understand, when people start learning about different industries, they tend, the technologists tend to make these industries more efficient. They tend to make these industries, mobile first. They tend to make these industries easier to use, and they end up disrupting them. And so what I think is going to happen, and what I think the new phrase from going from Web 2 to Web 3, is that markets are eating the world, and markets are going to help software eat the world. And so what do I mean by that? I mean Bitcoin, Ethereum, Stacks, Dogecoin even, so with Dogecoin, Dogecoin is kind of like a joke, but I leave it in here as an example. Dogecoin is just an inside joke where when the price goes higher, the joke gets funnier, and those without a sense of humor are the last ones holding Dogecoin. So you're going to see a lot more sort of markets eating things like even inside jokes. They're going to eat affinities. They're going to eat things like cities. And so there's a really good quote from my friend Balaji here talking about basically this progression and kind of like the thematic sort of like eras that he believes we've seen and will see. So the 2000s tech companies, that's software eating the world. 2010s cryptocurrencies, that's markets eating the world. And that trend will continue in the 2020s and 2030s with cities and states. So the last thing software has not eaten and that markets have not fully eaten is governments. So just like you can go long on companies and cryptos by buying their stock and tokens, so too you will be able to go long on new cities and countries. And we're in the very beginning phase of this. To me, this is crystal clear this is going to happen, and we're trying to do our best to make sure that it's successful. So let's level set and just talk about what the actual problem is. Well, we believe that cities, should I do a flip? We believe that cities need to be upgraded. This is a picture of San Francisco City Hall, I believe, and there's just a bunch of homeless people in tents. They're famous for spending, I think, $60 million to have something like 50 or something tents be maintained outside of City Hall, which it's just pretty much a disaster. It's a bad capital allocation, and basically the issue is governments are slow, they're ineffective, and they're underfunded. They eat hand to mouth, and the things that they do spend money on often don't solve problems, or they make the problems worse. And a lot of times they spend money on things just for optics. And the question we should ask ourselves is, why are we okay with this? And can we build something external to this to start chipping away at fixing this problem? And so I think there's a huge opportunity to upgrade cities and by using software and markets via municipal protocols. So let's talk about how big the market is for municipal protocols. Well, the closest sort of analog to it is municipal bonds. So municipal bonds is a $4.2 trillion market. And now what we're talking about here is a debt instrument that's basically sold to large institutions and sovereigns, and it's paid back through taxpayer money. And the taxpayers pay this money out of compulsion, not out of opportunity. They do it because they have no choice. And the city can't afford not to issue this debt because they want to get some of the things they want to get done. And so, if you were to compare municipal bonds to corporate bonds, and you were to compare municipal protocols and cryptos to equities and securities, you have a very interesting kind of comparison point basically. And we think that the largest market is between governments and their citizens. And so let's And let's talk about CityCoins, introducing CityCoins. So we want to make a transition from legacy municipal governance to municipal protocols. So these are all CityCoins for different cities all around the world. There's like 30 brands that have already been generated. So here you have New York City, Austin. This is actually what Austin Coins brand will look like, so you're getting a preview there. Yeah, you got Tokyo, Mexico City, Amsterdam, Los Angeles. Las Vegas was actually surprisingly, people like, it was surprised to me, people really wanted Las Vegas. Miami, Rio de Janeiro, San Francisco. And there's like Berlin, Tel Aviv, yada yada. There's a lot more. Just can't fit them on the screen. So let's talk about what these things are and what they give cities. And here I'm saying CityCoins give cities. I don't mean city governments necessarily. I don't mean I don't mean that. I mean just like cities broadly, the concept. What are they getting? So first thing they get is a crypto treasury to fund growth. Next thing you get is a governance token to align citizens and stakeholders on treasury allocation. And the third thing is they get an application layer for developers to build city apps and services. So that's like, imagine just like open source development for cities. And the reason that this is able to be open source is you have this coordination mechanism in the token. People can rally around the token and build around it. So you can build things like an identity layer. You can build things like apps that store your own data on encrypted cloud servers, and you can build decentralized applications automated through smart contracts like voting. You can build voting apps. You can do all sorts of really great things. But let's go through these one by one. So we talked about 1, 2, 3. Let's go through them. So first thing, CityCoins grow crypto treasuries. This is a Miami crypto treasury. So to take a step back, CityCoins are fairly launched by a city's community. There's no pre-mine. There's no ICO. The lesson was taken straight from Satoshi. Just go mining only. And what happens when you go mining only is you don't have a group of insiders who may have perverse incentives to just not try as hard, maybe just like cash out and like rug pull or do something. Like this is really attracting people who want to see this thing succeed, and they kind of coordinate together. Second thing is you mine CityCoins via this thing called proof of transfer. So instead of spending electricity like you would with Bitcoin, you spend cryptocurrency. And you're basically recycling proof of work by sending in stacks. And stacks actually has the same mining mechanism that similar to what CityCoins has, which you send in Bitcoin to mine stacks. Okay, so what happens is when you mine, 30% of the stacks that are used to mine get forwarded directly to that wallet. And this is kind of like one of the high watermarks during the bull market of how big the wallet was. And that wallet is able to do a lot of good for Miami and the protocol. The remaining 70% go directly to people who are holding, in this case, Miami coin or New York City coin. But when you temporarily lock your coin, then you can get yield. But the more important thing is when you temporarily lock your coin, you can vote on, soon you'll be able to vote on capital allocation from these types of treasuries. And then lastly, the crypto treasury can be reserved to be allocated in the form of a DAO. So token holders can submit proposals. They can elect people to be capital allocators, and basically they can reinvest back into the protocol. So the second thing that CityCoins let token holders do is to vote on treasury allocation. And this is something that we're in the beginning phases of working on. So over the course of this summer, we hope to have our CityCoins DAO up and running, voted on, and proposals going forward. So we're talking about millions of dollars that can go toward like super high impact sort of things. And we're at the very, very beginning stages. It'd be amazing to be like, the size of like Sweden's sovereign wealth fund in the future, where you're really pushing around your weight with the kind of capital that's in these treasuries. Quick side note, these treasuries also yield Bitcoin. So they're held in stacks. Stacks yields Bitcoin. So the treasuries don't just sit there and fluctuate in price. They also generate about 10% APY in Bitcoin. Okay, so CityCoins function as a governance token to vote on how the city's treasury is managed. And each city's treasury can be managed by a DAO that elects representatives to ensure capital allocation is effective, transparent, and supports reinvestment back into the ecosystem. So this is like a huge upgrade to how cities spend their money. Um, if you give a city, we've actually done this, by the way. If you give a city multiple millions of dollars, it's really hard to track where that money goes. You're basically like, I hope you spent it on the right thing. Like you can do the work and try to track it, but on the blockchain, I think is like way better. You like know it went to an address, keep people accountable. It's like open source governance. People can complain or be happy about it or whatever. Third thing is that CityCoins give developers an application layer. So you have some examples here. Some of my favorites are like, you can register you'll be able to register a .mia address, which is it's a crypto identity that you can use to log into applications or host websites, but no one can take it away from you. It's not traditional DNS. It's not centralized or on centralized servers. You could create rewards cards that generate CityCoins rewards. So like when people spend locally, they have more of the governance token. They can have more of a say in how the city is benefited. We have I don't know if you know Maury Ballstein from Zoolander, but that's one of my favorite characters. You can mint NFTs with it, and NFTs are great because it's a way of bootstrapping community. You can vote with it, you can mine them, etc. These are some of the kind of like higher values during the bull market that we experienced. They're lower, they're like sub 10 mil right now, both of them. But it kind of showed us like, wow, okay, we have a lot of capital. We can actually do some real work here. And some of the interesting things, I have to hurry up a little bit, but some of the interesting things that happened is Mayor Suarez from Miami announced a Bitcoin dividend from this Miami wallet. So this Miami wallet is just yielding Bitcoin at all times. And we have like $500,000 worth of Bitcoin that we're just gonna give to Miami citizens. So like, I don't know any other cities or countries that are doing that besides like El Salvador, but that's pretty badass. Again, so some more things is we have a Web3 dev camp with 120 local developers that are currently, right now at this moment, there's a live picture now, learning about CityCoins and how to build with them. So those are just like devs. We also have an accelerator with 12 startup companies in them with some great mentors like Balaji Srinivasan, the old CMO of Consensus, the founder of Skype, and the founders of Stacks. So far, over $62 million has been spent in the ecosystem to mine CityCoins. The community is over 50,000. I have to breeze through the slide because I don't have time, sorry, but this is basically the mining mechanism. The brief short here is you mine Bitcoin with electricity, you mine Stacks with Bitcoin, you mine CityCoins with Stacks. That's the gist. Okay, so what does this look like when it works? So first, just like love the idea of being able to support artists who are locals and have them know that what the sort of coin that they're accepting helps their local area. It's like, artists in New York are like really pushed out in like Brooklyn, Flatbush. They don't live in Soho anymore. But you can get artists off of subsistence level living by showing them how to create NFTs for a community that's already diehard about their city. So you're leveraging global markets to help local citizens. And you don't have to be like Andrew Carnegie or Vanderbilt to make a donation to your city. You don't have to buy a library. You can buy an NFT. You could say, maybe there's a map of New York City, for example, and you could buy, maybe Janice buys Bleecker Street. And or maybe you want to put up a virtual AR augmented reality, like that's like read-write access that shows like a statue of Satoshi Nakamoto, like in the middle of the city. You don't have to get any permission for that. You don't have to get any permission for helping benefit your city. Another thing, I'm like just super bullish on this, just as a way of bootstrapping community, creating an identity layer. And these are like, it's kind of like technical primitives for developers to start building applications. And this is basically identity. So you can have CityCoin identities for each of these cities. And these are identities where when you burn or spend a little bit of your respective CityCoin, you'll get the identity basically from a smart contract. No one can stop you, and no one can take that identity away from you. So our mission is empowering people to take ownership in their cities, and this is like one of the first steps. Take ownership of your identity, and take ownership of your cryptocurrency and your governance. Another kind of like fun idea is this idea of a stable coin for each city. Now, this is like a highly diffused kind of exploratory idea. But the interesting thing about this is, like, if you think about it, states and cities rely on federal block grants for additional funding. They're basically like, hey, hello, federal government, please print me more of some of that sweet, sweet cash. We don't have enough tax revenue to do what we want to do, and we don't want to issue corporate municipal bonds. You know, what you can do is, with a city cash, you can basically grow your own supply of your stablecoins, so you're less reliant on the federal government. You're kind of like a little bit more self-sovereign in a way, and you're also not able to be deplatformed. So like, you have the important thing there is you have root control of your own stable dollar while still bending the knee to the US dollar. So lastly, CryptoCities are here, take ownership of yours, and if you're looking to build, go to docs.citycoins.co. Thanks, guys.